Are you able to see my screen?
I can see it from here. I should believe the others also can see it.
Yes,
I can
we
also
can.
see it from this side. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I've got a short presentation where I'm going to talk about the Malawi 2063, which is a development blueprint for the country. And I'm also going to talk about briefly the Malawi 2063 First Implementation Plan, which is called MIP1, which is going to run from 2021 to 2030. Especially on this one, I'm going to talk on the interventions that we are looking at from this perspective of energy. With that little background, I would want to start that in all action, there is profit. But mere talk tends only to poverty. So as we move forward as a country, we are talking about a lot of plans, but if we don't do any action on them, we'll remain poor. This is from Proverbs 14, verse 23, for some believers who are here. Now, outline of my presentation, I'm going to talk briefly about the NPC mandate. Explanatory, and moving forward as we've made the plans, we've got the flagship projects. We will be working with the implementing partners to check progress, to remove bottlenecks so that the flagship projects that we have in different spheres are implemented. Those that are in energy. So our resolution as a country is that we desire and resolve to be an inclusively wealth and self-reliant, industrialized, upper middle income country by the year 2063. Why? So we can fund our development needs primarily by ourselves. Our manufacturing industry shall have strong forward and backward linkages with the sectors that will drive it. We shall also achieve this vision through collective effort and shall not allow any state or non-state actor to drill us, because as a country, we've resolved to move out of the predicament that we are in by implementing the plans that we have and doing action as a country. Now, the Malawi 2063 has got three main pillars. The first one is agriculture productivity and commercialization. We also have industrialization as a pillar and also urbanization. These link to each other. There are specific interventions that are going to take place with the pillar, so that once we do those interventions, we should move out of the poor country, at least by 2030, to a lower middle income country, because our target is that by the time we get to 2063, we are an upper middle income country. Now the vision is anchored by 7 enablers that are going to necessitate the implementation of the pillars and achieve the vision per se. The first one is mindset change, effective governance systems, public sector performance, private sector dynamism, human capital development, economic infrastructure, and environmental sustainability. And for this meeting, you would see that we will be focusing on enabler number 6, which is economic infrastructure. Of course, it also borders on environmental sustainability and the other enablers, including private sector dynamism. Because as we move forward, we need the private sector to join in most of the interventions that can uplift our country. So the objective of this economic infrastructure enabler is to have a globally competitive economic infrastructure that will promote domestic economic activity and also catalyze foreign direct investment for inclusive wealth creation. So under economic infrastructure, we talk about energy, we talk about road infrastructure, transport and the like. We also talk about ICT as infrastructure that is going to enable us to achieve our vision. In specific reference to this meeting, we're going to talk about energy and how addressed in the vision and also in the implementation plan that is coming up. So the implementation plan aims to, as a country, to increase access to electricity to 50% by 2030, while matching the proportion of energy generation to that of energy demand. This is in reference to the other pillars where we are, for example, propagating for mining, propagating for tourism. These are activities, these are interventions that are going to require a lot of energy. So our resolution to develop or to have capacity in energy should be matched with the demands from these industries. If there is a mining establishments in a certain location and requires a lot of energy, as a country, we should resolve to provide that energy apart from what we've planned. So it is our resolution that we go in that route, because we know that these interventions are the ones that are going to bring in the much needed income so that we are self-reliant as a country. So what are some of the game-changing interventions that we've thought of in the vision and the implementation plan? The first one is that we would have to understand that there is need for innovative long-term financing for these capital investments, such as blended finance and public-private partnerships, especially in the sectors of energy and also strategic roads and ICT. This is so because in the past, we've largely been relying on the government to finance most of these infrastructure and capital projects, which hasn't been working. It has, but we are still lagging in many aspects. That's why I'm saying, no, I think it's high time that the private sector joins in to provide some of these infrastructure. So there is need for that innovative long-term financing arrangements that we can explore as a country. At the same time, we would want to diversify the number of independent power producers, largely focusing on renewable and sustainable energy to reduce the overdependence on hydro-generated power from just one river. As you are aware, and most of you being in the energy sector, most of our power in the country comes from the Shire River. In national electricity coverage. This is to increase the access to electricity, which of course to be matched by the capacity that we have in producing that electricity. But also the access to electricity is not only to on-grid electricity. We are also considering the other sources of power, the renewable energy sources, solar and the like, which should not only be from the national grid, but people should have access to these things so that we increase the access. We also want to invest in new high capacity power plants and construct new transmission lines and substations to support energy generation and the distribution capacity. As I've mentioned, there are interventions that require a lot of energy, mining activities, things like those. We have to be ready as a country and provide that energy that is needed so that we kickstart these things. Development of more hydropower plants, expedite the completion of energy projects in the pipeline, which already commenced to increase energy supply to the national grid. You might be aware that there are energy projects that are in the pipeline. We've been talking about in Patamanga. We would want to expedite these as a country so that in the shortest period possible, these projects should come to life and provide the much needed power. And also, we would want to fast track the commencement and completion of the interconnection of Malawi's power system with that of Mozambique and Zambia. In the shortest term, we'll be buying electricity from our neighbors. But when time comes that we've got the energy that we need and we've got surplus, we'll be returning the energy and selling it to these neighbors. And after I say that, we have to know that a good idea is about 10%. Implementation is 90%, which is very critical. And at that point, we have to know that as we listen to this presentation, there might be doubts, but the Malawi want is possible if we put in action. So all we have to do is to be part of the history of creating it. That in 2021, as a country, we set out on a vision to achieve different aspects in energy and the economic infrastructure. From that time on, going forward, we set our eyes on the prize and we achieved it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.